All right, today we are diving deep. We're going right back to the very beginnings of sociology to meet three thinkers who are staring down the birth of the modern world. We're going to explore their clashing visions through three really cool metaphors: the architect, the doctor, and the critic. So just imagine for a second that your entire world gets turned completely upside down. The rules you thought you knew? Gone. How would you even start to make sense of it all? Well, this wasn't just some thought experiment. This was the reality for people back in the 19th century.
I mean, you had revolutions just completely reshaping everything. The Industrial Revolution was pulling people off farms and cramming them into crowded new cities and factories. At the same time, the French Revolution was tearing down centuries of belief in kings and queens. Now, this chaos, it was terrifying for a lot of people, but for a few thinkers, it was also the perfect laboratory to create a brand new science of society.
You see, to navigate this strange new world, the old tools just weren't cutting it anymore. Philosophy, history, they weren't enough. What they needed was a dedicated science of society, a science of us.
So who steps up first? Our first pioneer is Auguste Comte, a man often called the father of sociology. And the best way to think of him is as the architect. He saw a society that looked like it was in ruins, and he set out to design this grand master blueprint to rebuild it. But not on old ideas like faith or tradition, no. He wanted to build it on a foundation of pure, hard science.
Comte's big idea, the core of his whole project, was something called positivism. He genuinely believed that we could study society just like a physicist studies the universe or a chemist studies molecules. He said, forget all the guesswork. If we just observe human behavior systematically, we can actually uncover the fundamental laws of social physics that govern all of us.
And he saw all of human history as this grand march of progress, broken down into three stages. First, he said, we were in the theological stage, where we explained everything through gods and spirits. Then, we evolved into the metaphysical stage, using abstract ideas like Mother Nature or natural rights. But for Comte, the final destination, the ultimate goal, was the positive stage, where all our knowledge would finally be based on cold, hard, scientific evidence.
And this way of thinking is just captured perfectly in his motto. For Comte, sociology wasn't just about understanding society, it was a tool for perfecting it. He believed that by discovering the laws of social order, we could literally engineer a better, more progressive future.
Now you might be thinking, this all sounds a bit dated, but Comte's optimism is absolutely alive and well today. I mean, every time we use big data to try and design better cities or predict social trends, we're basically channeling his belief in a scientifically managed world. And that leaves us with this huge question. Can, and maybe more importantly should, human society be engineered just like a machine?
Okay, so if Comte was the architect with a grand blueprint, our next thinker, Émile Durkheim, was more like the doctor. He's the one who basically put on the lab coat and got to work diagnosing how society actually functions day to day. He gave sociology its rigorous, hands-on methodology. And Durkheim's key contribution, his biggest idea, is this concept of social facts. The best way to think about them is like social gravity, right? They're these invisible forces that exist totally outside of us as individuals, but they are powerful, they are real, and they are constantly pulling on us, shaping our behavior.
And these social facts are everywhere. They're the laws we have to follow, the money we use, our religious beliefs, even the unwritten rules, like how to act in an elevator or how close to stand to someone when you're talking. You didn't invent any of these things, but they for sure shape how you live your life.
Durkheim said that when you put all these social facts together, they create what he called a collective consciousness, basically the shared beliefs and the moral compass that glues a society together. It's that invisible stuff that turns a random crowd of individuals into a real community.
So why does this matter to us today? Well, Durkheim's idea explains so much about our modern lives. Think about peer pressure, or office politics, or just that powerful urge we all feel sometimes to fit in. We're all being guided by these invisible social rules, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, get ready for a major shift here. Because while Comte and Durkheim were busy trying to figure out what holds society together, our third thinker, Karl Marx, came along and saw a world that was fundamentally being torn apart. He wasn't an architect or a doctor. He was the critic.
And this slide really nails the difference. You've got Comte and Durkheim asking, how does society stay stable? But Marx comes in and asks a totally different, and frankly, a more dangerous question. Who does this system actually benefit? He wasn't looking for harmony, he was looking for the power struggles that were raging just beneath the surface. So, the heart of Marx's argument is that our social order isn't natural or inevitable at all, it's built on conflict. He believed the engine that drives history forward wasn't some smooth path of progress, but a constant, grinding struggle between social classes, the people who own things and the people who work for them.
And look, love him or hate him, Marx's influence is just undeniable. He basically created the entire vocabulary we still use today to talk about economic inequality, power dynamics, and class divides. These conversations are right at the very heart of our modern political world.
So what we have are three pioneers, each one giving us a completely different lens to look at the very same world. You've got the architect, who's focused on order, the doctor, who's focused on function, and the critic, who is focused entirely on conflict.
And this table really brings it all home, doesn't it? For Comte, society was the system that we could perfect through science. For Durkheim, it was more like a living organism, held together by shared beliefs. But for Marx, it was a battlefield, a constant, endless struggle for power and resources.
And this brings us to the final and I think the most important question. And this one is for you. When you look out at the world today, which lens seems to fit best? Do you see a system that's slowly moving towards order, a community bound together by shared values, or an arena of constant conflict? Maybe the real insight here is that our world is a complicated, messy mix of all three.